Good evening and welcome to Nightline Africa. We are coming to you from the English to Africa service of the Voice of America. Thanks for joining us. I'm Peter Clinton in Washington, D.C. Still in Uganda, parliamentarian Jimmy Akena says he is prepared to sacrifice his life to ensure there is a change in government in the next general election. Akena, who is also the leader of the opposition Uganda People's Congress or UPC, also rejected criticisms that he poses no significant political threat to incumbent President Yoweri Museveni and his ruling National Resistance Movement or NRM. At a recent meeting with fishermen, Akena, who is the son of former Ugandan President Milton Obote, says he is ready to sacrifice everything to see political change in Uganda. But his critics say he is yet another politician trying to stay relevant ahead of the general election. For more insight into his plans to win political power, I reached parliamentarian Jimmy Akena.
Of recent, we have had a situation whereby the army is policing the lakes and trying to secure fish for export, while the communities which live by the lakes, which have subsisted on the lake, having to find their own means, and there's a rise in malnutrition and all sorts of around this because people depend upon the lake. So I was making it very clear that such sort of issues which do not work in the interest of the citizens of Uganda were not going to be acceptable, and we are ready to take up the challenge to make sure that the citizens of Uganda have the benefits of being citizens and also enjoy the rights as enshrined in the universal documents like Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Let them also have those rights to be able to live and raise their families in peace and comfort.
But you are saying that you are willing to even join your father. That means to even die for the cause of political change. Are you committed to these statements, or this is just a political talk?
It is not a political talk. This is a serious statement, and considering I live in a country whereby they are the leaders and the generals who believe that the issues such as fundamental human rights can be determined by the leadership or the high command of the army. So it is not a light statement you make in a circumstance where you live in those situations. And that of recent, of course, I'm sure you must have been following. There's this desire to have cases of sometimes of political nature prosecuted in a military court, and where that court is really under strict orders to come up with a particular outcome. So I don't make such statements lightly. I know the terrain I'm living in, and also know what is at stake. So I made those statements knowing full well the repercussions or the content therein.
Mr. Akena, some of your critics are saying, what do you know about suffering? You were born and or raised with a silver spoon in your mouth. You don't know the suffering of the people. You are also a member of parliament leading the UPC party, challenging President Museveni on several occasions. You really don't know what affects the people of Uganda, so you should not be the one talking like that, they argue. What's your response to that?
I have spent 29 years as a refugee, and let nobody tell you whatever circumstances, refugee life is not something I recommend for anybody. And at the same time, because of those upheavals, I've had my whole world turned upside down on 2 occasions. And therefore, I'm conversant. I've also worked with the communities who have been displaced, who have gone through suffering. And I think from the time I entered politics in Uganda, my first order of business was how to get the millions of displaced Ugandan citizens back to their homes, which involved a peace process, which I was glad to be a part of, and took us deep in the jungles of Congo to try and see whether Joseph Kony was willing to get to the table, which he did. And at least we got some level of disengagement, which allowed people to go home. So, yes, I know what the suffering is, and I think I'm in a position to be able to pronounce myself on that.
Mr. Akena, you also said you want to enter State House through the forthcoming elections. But as it stands now, some people are saying you are just one of the many opposition political parties, and that because of your number, it makes it possible or easy for President Yoweri Museveni and his NRM party to win elections easily. Are you willing to form an alliance, or you want to go it alone?
As a student of mathematics, when you have a formula for presidential, which is a 50+1 vote, that one should clearly spell out that any percentage matters. And if you look at the last vote, or what was officially declared may not be exactly what took place, what transpired, but it gives you a working figure. And considering the fact that the president alleges that 1 million votes were stuffed in the last general elections, which roughly comes out to about 10% of the vote. So 1 million vote can actually deny any candidate the 50+1. So I don't think that somebody who's really serious about the politics or really understands the politics or the rules in this particular case, which is 50+1. If it is first past the post, then it definitely makes sense that it's better that we sit down and try to balance ourselves such that we get a candidate first past the post. But we're running a 50+1 system. The 50+1 system it gives different dynamics. And I'd like to encourage any candidate who believes they have an actual support base to offer themselves as a candidate. The first round, if we come to a second round, the first round we'd like to determine where the chips fall, and therefore we respond thereafter.
Parliamentarian Jimmy Akena is leader of the opposition Uganda People's Congress, or UPC. He spoke with me from the capital, Kampala. You are listening to Nightline Africa on the English to Africa service of The Voice of America. I'm your host, Peter Clotte in Washington, D.C. And coming up, in the second half of Nightline Africa, the Saturday music spot from our collection of music from the continent. But first,